Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here. 49ers plus minus on a Friday evening, not our typical recording day. With my co-host is Matt Barrows of The Athletic, but a little Monday night football, little Thanksgiving. So we're gonna fire this one off into the morass of a weekend. Hopefully you are listening. I know you're all loyal listeners. It will listen no matter when we post it. But it was just not. It was senseless to do it on our traditional Thursday on Thanksgiving. So we'll treat this like a Thursday, Barrows. Just kind of do the NFL thing. Even though the 49ers are flying today to Cleveland, it's all the whole schedule screwed up because of the Monday night game. Then you had the Thanksgiving, but that's just a little process. We'll fight through it and we'll figure it out. Do you think this schedule is screwing them up at all, Barrows? We know they're flying into weather too, so there's a bunch of stuff going on for them as they head off to play Cleveland on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's screwing with them as far as having one fewer day of rest, and a team that hasn't had its bye yet is having one fewer day of rest. I got the impression, though, from Shanahan, like he feels like the team has gotten into a good groove right now. And so I asked him on Friday, I'm sure you wanted that bye to be in the middle of the season. But now that it's finally coming up, I mean, can this be an advantage for you? And like I said, he sort of had mixed reaction to that. He didn't want to kind of get out of the rhythm that they're in right now. But he also said that, more of a physical break. He's eager for his team to have a mental break, just a week away from football, not having to think about everything. So if they take care of business in Cleveland, and I think that's a considerable if, and we'll go over the storylines. Then they get this week off, which they've been looking forward to. And then it's just 4 games.
Yeah.
Tennessee, winnable. Then you get the, I forget the game in between, then Bears, then Seahawks. So an opportunity to gain a little bit of an advantage on your competitors who probably had their bye, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
I think it's 5 games, right? No,
Is it
4.
5?
Yeah. No, 4 games. You're right. Tennessee, Indianapolis, Chicago,
Indianapolis.
Seattle.
That's the one I forgot.
Yeah. Okay. I knew you'd left a game off, and I was like, wait a minute here. It's 4 games. That is kind of amazing that they only have 4 games left after a bye. They clearly have been looking forward to this for a long time. Mental break. The guys who just started coming back, I think, could use like a little bit of a reset, maybe. But I get what Shanahan's saying. Is like you kind of want, if Purdy's taking a couple weeks to get going again, you don't want him to stop again and get out of rhythm. Ricky Pearsall, we all know the stats haven't been huge in his games back. Maybe he doesn't he wants to get that arrow continuing to point up. But I think they will take. I think George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and a bunch of the guys will take the week off just to just soothe the body down a little bit. I think the bigger issue, that is a bigger issue, no question. Being on the road, 10 a.m. start, all the things against a very good defense, all the things we always talk about when the matchups like this. But that weather is going to be the thing that we all are concentrating on, I think, once that broadcast starts at 10 a.m. or whenever it does on Sunday. And there's going to be something, right? There's going to be precipitation. It's going to be very cold.
Windy.
What I don't know who asked Shanahan today, are you going to run more or pass more? Which was, I guess, was asked humorously. He's not going to answer that. Of course, he did say, "Oh no, we're just going to throw it every down."
He said, "The rainier it gets, the more we're going to throw."
Why not? You just don't ask coaches what they're going to do in a game. They never answer that, nor you understand why they wouldn't. It's just something they got to buckle down for. They got to be prepared. Do you remember in the 2023 game, did they know in Cleveland did they know it was going to be a bad weather game going into it?
It didn't rain a lot in that game. It rained, I would say, sporadically. And so, I think that there was a chance of showers. I want to say that it was an early October game.
Yeah, it was it was like mid-October.
Yeah. But it wasn't, there was never any threat of snow or anything like that. I mean, I think that game is mild compared to what they might see on Sunday. And there's a chance, Right now the forecast is calling for lots of precipitation, but for that precipitation to end maybe an hour before kickoff. If that's the case, then the biggest concern is going to be wind. And we're talking considerable winds, like 30, 35 mile an hour wind. And Shanahan said today, I mean, if you're picking between a light rain and a heavy wind, you prefer the light rain. But I think the ball is going to be slick no matter what, because it's a snowstorm right now as we're talking. That's going to go away, and then there's going to be a second front that comes in late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. But we're talking about the main guy, the guy who's coming off of a 3-interception game, one of his worst games, and he's being asked to have a rebound game. He wants to have a rebound game in circumstances that in every way are working against him, and starting with the weather. And that's the next thing is Jim Schwartz defense, which has been really rough on 49ers teams over the years. Shanahan talked about that. And then number 3 on that list is Myles Garrett. And you've got to figure out where he is all the time. But to me, the big one is, okay, how does Purdy come back from a bad game? He has not been good in the rain or the snow. And people say, well, yeah, of course, quarterbacks aren't as good in the rain and the snow. I wrote about that this week. The gap between Purdy in fair weather and Purdy in bad weather is much, much bigger than every other quarterback.
Maybe not Tua. Maybe not Tua.
Not Tua.
Yeah, that's the one.
So he's a storyline. I think Matt Gay is a storyline. He's never kicked in Cleveland. This is a guy who's been kicking since 2019. I just went over the places where he hasn't kicked, and it's only like half a dozen cities, but they're all cold weather cities. He hasn't kicked in. I think he has kicked in Buffalo, but he hasn't kicked in Chicago. He hasn't kicked in
Green Bay,
New England, some other ones that notoriously difficult in the winter. So there'll be a question mark with him as well, and what promises to be a defensive, low-scoring game.
Yeah, it's going to be running the ball. I mean, I think they would run the ball no matter what in this condition against that defense. It's not going to be easy to run against them, but they're really good sacking the quarterback. Obviously, the best pass rusher in football, Myles Garrett. They've given up some yards running the ball. Baltimore put some yards on them. There was another team I forget. I mentioned in my piece for the Standard, my predictions piece. But they're going to run the ball, and coming off the 3 interceptions, it would be typical Shanahan and Purdy for them to go, you know what, let's throw the ball. They think we're going to be safe and saying, let's cut it loose. I don't think you do it in this win. I don't think you do it against that defense. I don't think you do it when you know that the Browns offense is probably not going to score a lot of points. We know the 49ers defense is vulnerable. We've said it. But Shedeur Sanders, even, first start, good start, whatever, Raiders are terrible. He did not go up and down the field against the Raiders.
No.
He did not do it. This is going to be a very cautious offensive game, and it should be a cautious offensive game. And the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, and they have Brian Robinson Jr., and they have George Kittle. Like, you can play a physical game. I don't think you're going to look at 400 yards, but can you get 310 and 2 touchdowns and a field goal? Can you put 17 up? I think 17 probably wins this game, maybe 20. And that is not necessary to get that. It's not necessary to just start throwing the ball all over the place. And the jump balls that Purdy was throwing, a hair, as Shanahan said, a hair late, a hair behind, to the hair. I don't think you want that to be, because a hair in the wind and in the sleet probably turns into a lot more than a hair. So I think the inclination would be for those two guys to want to just say, hey, you think we're going to just run the ball? You think we're going to wrap it up, go in a cocoon? No, we're going to, but I just don't think the conditions are going to be set up for it. And then you throw one wobbly pass on the first drive and it goes into somebody else in the wrong team's hands, you're going to have all crisis. You're going to have a crisis of confidence, crisis of all sorts of things. Maybe stay away from that. You do have Christian McCaffrey. They've won a lot of games. They won 5 of them with Mac Jones where they don't throw the ball downfield. They can do that. Even if the defense knows it's coming, you can design it in such a way. You're not going to score 35 points, and they didn't with Mac Jones, but you can score 17 to 20, and I think that's all they're going to need.
Yeah. One of the reasons this is going back to the origins of Kyle Shanahan when he started calling plays in Houston. He was going up against the Tennessee Titans twice a year, and Jim Schwartz was part of that team, and that's the origin story of the wide nine. And so Shanahan and his offense, the Gary Kubiak Shanahan offense at that point, had a hard time, especially with the outside zones, which were great against most teams, but the wide nine has that. It's
their guys are there. Yeah, the guys are there.
That defensive end that's way out wide, and the Titans had big defensive ends. Chris Bosh, the Freak. They had some good players out there too, and so that's why when Shanahan was retooling his defense in 2019, he wanted a defensive line coach that was well versed in the wide nine because he came to admire that over time. So I agree with you that the 49ers are gonna run the ball. I don't think that it's going to be their bread and butter plays. I mean, I think that with the elements and with the way the Cleveland Browns are set up, running on the inside is where you're going to find your best plays.
Run power.
Poor guy Malik Collins is on the Cleveland Browns. He's in the middle. This is a Malik Collins revenge game. He's in the middle of that line. A couple of other guys. Obviously, the headliner is on the outside, and you want to figure out where that guy is and go in the opposite direction. So I think you're right. I think it'll be more inside running with Christian McCaffrey, with Brian Robinson. And I think that the guy to fear on the Cleveland Browns is a rookie, but it's not Shedeur Sanders. It's the running back, Quinshon Judkins. They're going to do the same thing. And can the 49ers stop the run? They didn't. The Carolina Panthers, I wrote it down, they only had 13 rushing attempts on Monday. And they rushed the ball well when they did rush it. 2 guys averaged well over 5 yards per carry. I expect the Browns to concentrate more on the run. I mean, now, if the Tim Kawakami system gets off swimmingly and the 49ers suddenly go up 14-0, then that would be a huge advantage to the 49ers. But I don't think so. The Browns are interesting. They play rookies more than any team in this league, and they've got a rookie quarterback. They've got 2 rookie running backs, and they've got a tight end sort of H-back guy, Harold Fannin, wears the same number as Kyle Juszczyk, number 44, and the 49ers brought him in for a pre-draft visit, and he's not a traditional tight end. He's not a blocker. He's not an inline guy. He's a guy that you move all over the place in the backfield a lot. I'm certain that the 49ers were thinking about him as a potential down the road Kyle Juszczyk replacement. And he's the guy that they throw to when he's the check down guy. And he gets a lot of passes thrown to him, and he's good with the ball in his hands. And that's sort of the kind of guy that I think could hurt the 49ers in this game. It's not going to be a lot of pretty passes down the field. It's going to be a lot of dump offs and screens and broken plays. And if Sanders can kind of stay on his feet and hit these guys, that's how they're going to gobble up yardage and score. And the same thing with Purdy. It's going to be about who ad-libs better in difficult circumstances. So this will be a fun game to watch, I think. Certainly not an elegant game. It's going to be a messy game, but Purdy's got to step up, and the Browns do have some avenues to win it, I think.
Yeah, those little tight end stuff. That's how the Rams killed him, right? A little late release tight end cut across the formation, and the defense kind of forgets he's there, or it's a bad matchup. I mean, the Rams beat them in a lot of ways. That was certainly one of the ways that the Rams beat them. And when you're down personnel, that's what happens. Let's go back. Let's go over the injuries. Tatum Bethune not going to play, correct? Eddie, and so they're down to Curtis Robinson in not the greatest game, last game in Bethune's place. He's a third stringer. That's what happens. They have a very good backup in Bethune, but then when you're down to your third string, you're going to have a guy who's in there just mostly to call the plays. He's not going to make a lot of plays himself, and he did not make plays against Carolina. And I don't know how much you can count on him to make plays in this game. Just be in the right spot. Make sure there's not a big open gap for Judkins to run through. Who else is out? Pinero is out, as you mentioned. Matt Gay
and Sam O is out.
Sam O is out. So who rises there? Because Beal's on the injured list, right?
No, Beal's back this week. Beal
Okay.
will play. The question is, who are the starters now? And I assume they're going to be Cleveland Ferrell and Bryce Huff, with Beal coming in as a sort of a designated pass rusher. But that's been a beat up position this year, and now they're even more beat up at that spot. So yeah, I think that they're hoping that Pinheiro and Bethune come back after the bye, but it might be another week beyond the bye for Sam Okuano. And he has not been a sack artist by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been a steady, good run defender, good hustle, runs down plays. So he's going to be missed for sure. In a game where we're going to see a lot of running, I think that's going to be an interesting spot. So I think that Keon White and Cleveland Ferrell might end up playing a lot. And that's probably good for this game. They're bigger bodied defensive ends. They're run specialists. And like I said, neither of them are going to get a lot of sacks, but I think that stopping the run is going to be the order of the day in Cleveland.
I'll tell you, Keon White, if they didn't have him, they would miss him. A pretty good wasn't at the deadline. It was a week before the deadline. But if you had said, what did they give up? A 6 for him, I think? What did they give up?
Yeah, it was one of those that
flip 6-7 kind of thing.
Right.
Like if you had said, given what we know now, that the 49ers traded a 4th for him, you might say that's a little bit much, but man, they really like him. I know it's like that player has been just essential as a plug-in piece, just someone to eat up downs and do some things. And he's been around the quarterback a little bit, so I'll give him credit for that one. What we do know is that Brandon Aiyuk's practice window has not opened up and will not be opened up next week. So now we're really talking. You and I have both said that we don't expect him. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth. I do not expect him to play this season. I do not expect him to play for the 49ers ever again. Barrows says, just from the clock, from what we know has happened with them voiding his guaranteed money, from what you've certainly said before anyone else, that he's not around for anyone to see unless you're there in the morning when the media is not around. This guy going to make it back?
I mean, it would be in his best interest to at least, if they open his practice window, to get out there and practice and hit the ground running, so that when if he is cut and he's available, he's gotten sort of a head start on the new season. I think it would also help from a character standpoint. Obviously, there's all sorts of questions about him, and no one. I don't know what the answers are, but teams will be asking the question: what happened that this went south after such a remarkable 2023 season? So again, him being around, him doing an interview with the media, other teams saying, okay, this guy, okay, we can work with this guy. He doesn't seem all that oddball or anything like that. So, I mean, I think that would be in his best interest, but obviously he hasn't followed the letter of the law that's in that contract, which is what allowed the 49ers to come and wipe away his 2026 guarantees. And the other question is, what do you do with him? And what do you do with Jacob Cowing if he's ready to play?
Hmm.
They're already playing with 5 wide receivers, and each of these guys has carved out a role. Jordan Watkins, who they like a lot, the rookie, he's the healthy scratch now on game days because Sky Moore is delivering as a special teamer really well. Ricky Pearsall is working back in. Juwan Jennings is looking more like himself. Kendrick Bourne has delivered at times this season. The last guy is Demarcus Robinson, who got a lot of work with Purdy in the summer, more than any of those guys, by the way. Yeah, I guess he's getting a few more passes. Certainly has not
You
done
know
a
what?
lot
He
up
he
until
block
this week.
he
What's that?
blocks. He blocks. I think that's like if you're going to be a down the depth chart receiver and you get 7 snaps a game, it helps if Shanahan sees you on the film 4 times making a block, and he is a willing blocker. So that's a
You know
great
who else
point.
blocks? Juwan Jennings blocks.
I have heard that is the
The
case.
Carolina Panthers found that out on Monday, and they didn't like it
Mhm.
the way that he blocked. So
Most defensive backs do not like that, which is a credit to him. He is a through the whistle guy. He's a physical guy, and he is stronger, as he said himself. I'm stronger than
yes,
most of those guys, and it is one of the reasons why he has been so valuable for the 49ers. We shall see how that all works in the offseason. But that's a great point. Like even if Aiyuk, if the reporting is accurate, which I believe to be true, that it's kind of up to him. I think Jay Glazer has reported that, and Jay Glazer is usually let's just say he is known to be pretty close to a certain executive in the 49ers, very, very close. So I certainly don't doubt what he's saying. That what if Aiyuk says, during the bye week, hey, I'll be ready next week? What do the 49ers do? Maybe they open the window and then they cut him. Like they could cut him before the season is over because you just don't have that roster spot. I think it's more likely that, yeah, what you're suggesting, maybe they open the window with 2 weeks to play, and he just gets those 2 weeks of practice because he's not going to play. He's not going to play. Like there's just you open the practice window for him to play, and then you cut him. What is he? I guess he gets those weeks of practice, but I don't know how much practice he would really get. I just don't think he's playing, and they're just trying to figure out the way this all works. It isn't easy to do when you're not really having communication with him. Obviously, things are not going well, but I just don't. I was thinking he wouldn't play just for the way the emotions are, but you make a great point. They're already not activating Jordan Watkins, who has a much larger future with the 49ers than Brandon Aiyuk. They're not cutting him. They're not cutting Sky Moore, who has actually been very good as a kick returner. They're not cutting. I mean, I don't think they're cutting DeMarcus Robinson, who actually has a role. Obviously,
and he has a
yeah,
year left on his contract. He's one
absolutely,
of the few guys that are coming back next year at that
absolutely.
position.
And you're not cutting Jennings and you're not cutting Pearsall. So what are you doing there? So the math of it might have already be spelled out. It might already be there. Aggregate that. We figured out the math of it. Put that out there. But they will have some, we'll see who gets through this game healthy. Always could be more injuries. But you get Pinero and Bethune back, Barrows, you start to be feeling like this is a team like maybe Shanahan is suggesting. There is some momentum, just health momentum. Again, we'll see who gets hurt or doesn't get hurt on Sunday. But you have guys getting games back under their belt. Purdy games back under his belt after being out. Kittle's now been back for a while. You just have this Pearsall back. Jennings back healthy, right? It had been a while since he looked like he was his old self, and has been for the last two or 3 weeks. I can see where they're saying. I don't think you or I are thinking they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but maybe we thought the Eagles would 3 weeks ago, and now they're look terrible. Just got handled by the Bears. Maybe the Bears are the team you got to beat. Certainly the Rams, but I guess my point is, it's not going to take a lot to get at least a game into the NFC postseason picture. I don't know. Like you get matched up. If they get like a Eagles 3-6, is that what it would be? Yeah, 3-6. I don't know that's going to be the most tough game in the whole world. I know. I don't know what the Eagles are going to do. They kind of do this sometimes. Start fast and just hit a wall, and then they lose in the first round. So just keep playing. Just keep winning. Get into the tournament. They look pretty good for that right now, especially with Detroit losing Barrows. 49ers look pretty solid at that set number 7 spot. If they just win the games they're supposed to, how do you assess them kind of in this weird NFC race right now?
I think they have a fatal flaw, and we've been talking about this since the trade deadline. They don't have any pass rushers
That is true.
besides Bryce Huff, and poor Bryce Huff is now getting every double team possible. He was supposed to be the complement to Nick Bosa. So, in this day and age, it's very hard to see you winning like that. Um, you know, you would
But who would that be a major problem against?
the Rams.
It would be the Rams for sure.
The Rams.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that we're all kind of seeing the path to the Super Bowl for the NFC going through the Rams in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I think that a plausible scenario is that the 49ers play the Seahawks in the season finale at Levi Stadium and then turn around and head up to Seattle the next week and visit them there, maybe on a Saturday even.
2-7 game, 2-7 game.
Yeah, exactly. 2-7 game, and then if they win that one, which I think they could, they would probably then head to their other NFC rival and play the Rams in what would be the Rams opener in SoFi. So, yeah, I mean, those two teams, you've got two good, very strong arm quarterbacks that have good wide receiving crews with them. Jackson Smith-Njigba is having a fantastic season, and Matt Stafford can throw to any two or three guys plus 3 tight ends in Los Angeles. So those are the ones that you had trouble with. I mean, I think that even if they went to Philadelphia and you've got Jalen Hurts and he's throwing to AJ Brown and he's throwing to the smaller receiver there,
Devonta
Smith from Alabama, who I think is a fantastic receiver. That's still going to be problematic for this team. So, the 49ers made a decision around the trade deadline that, okay, we're not going to go all in for any of these pass rushers, these edge guys. So they have to kind of live with the consequences. And I think the consequence is you cannot expect to get any sort of decent pressure on any of these really good quarterbacks once the playoffs start.
Yeah, I think the one would be Jalen Phillips, which I understand the discussion. If I would the 49ers thinking, I would be leery of him because he does have a lengthy injury history. But he's been healthy for the Eagles, and he looks really good. And he went to the Eagles, which is somebody you might have to beat in the playoffs, as you mentioned. Went for a 3rd-round pick, I think. So,
yes.
Yeah, the 49ers could have put their 3rd in. Maybe that would be more valuable than the Eagles' 3rd, or maybe you go 3rd and a 5th. That would have been too expensive for my blood at that time. Right now, you think about it, I understand why they didn't do it. And I don't think I would have done it at the time. I didn't know or think that Jalen Phillips is going to look like this. So maybe it's always more information. That would have been the one. Is that the one that you would circle if the 49ers are lacking this kind, any sort of pass rush going into the playoffs? And
I mean, that's the one that we have evidence about, what they had to give up to get this guy. I know that Jermaine Johnson was in the conversation. He's the Jets pass rusher. But I don't know what the details of that were. I've heard that the asking for all of these guys were absurd this year and the 49ers just wouldn't do it. That also, though, kind of folds into what the 49ers philosophy has been this year. We're not going to spend a lot of money this year, especially on guys. I forget whether Jermaine Johnson had another year left, but they were looking for guys that were still under contract in 26 as well. So, I mean, you just have to kind of get through the rest of the season and perhaps the playoffs with what you have. And they weren't bad against the Carolina Panthers. There was 1 sack, Foles, probably the only quarterback that would have been sacked in that scenario.
Why?
I don't see Josh Allen getting pulled down quite that easily, like Bryce Young did. It's just 1 sack, 100% more than they had the week prior, and in 3 other games this season. So we'll see what happens with Shedeur Sanders. It'll be interesting. I mean, if it's a bad field, then that would be a real advantage for the 49ers, I think, because it takes a lot of um, uh, energy, quickness out of the pass rush. The 49ers don't have much of a pass rush
It's like, okay, we're doing
anywhere.
that.
But the Cleveland Browns do, and I think any way to sort of mitigate Myles Garrett would be welcome to the 49ers.
Just kind of slosh around in the sleet and the snow. They're just fine with that because then it just becomes, can you throw the ball 6 yards when you have a little bit of time, move around a little bit? They should do all right. You want the big prediction here, Barrows?
Yeah, I want to know what
Yeah,
your vibe, what
I
your
don't
feel
feel. I
is.
don't feel as strongly on this one as I have on the previous 7 in a row, which I've hit, which we will emphasize. I have
7. We're at 7 now? You sound
7 in
like,
a row.
Donald Trump with all the wars that he's
7
ended.
in a row. You look it up. Look it up on the San Francisco Standard predictions. I'll just put it that way. Starting with the Tampa Bay game, after the Rams game, which I did not get correct, the Thursday night game that nobody saw the 49ers winning, and they did. I've been getting a stronger feeling about this one. I really didn't know which way would this go. The 49ers are favored, which is kind of like by 6 points or something, which is kind of crazy. But I do see them winning this game. Purdy does not normally stink for back-to-back games. He has had a bad game and then a not so great game. Maybe it falls in that category. I just think the competitor in him, the competitor in Shanahan, the way this team is feeling like it has something going. They can get some offense. Don't turn it over. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to put some balls in play. Can they catch him? Jair Brown can catch him. Can he get one? A little bit of pressure on him. I just don't see the Browns scoring more than 14, 13, 14, 17 maybe. Can the 49ers get 17, 20? I think they can. They can get a short field or two with some turnovers, play it into the fourth quarter, and see Matt Gay can kick in the cold weather. I think the 49ers are going to win this game. I would not be given a ton of points. Not that anyone's betting on this, nor should they. But to keep my streak alive is 49ers in a, not a super interesting game, but in a who's going to screw up, who's going to take advantage, who's going to be able to move the ball 30 yards when you absolutely have to in bad weather to set up a game-winning field goal, or at least a field goal maybe that puts the game away. I'm going to say the 49ers win this one.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that all the good vibrations coming out of Cleveland right now in regard to Sanders came against the Las Vegas Raiders. I
Correct.
watched that game.
Yeah.
That was a terrible, terrible game. The only one that competed with that in terribleness was the Falcons Saints game. It was just as bad.
Yeah.
But it was a bad week for us to have a Sunday off because a lot of the games were losers. I think that the 49ers are way better than the Raiders. I think that the weather is going to muck up that Cleveland offense. And that the 49ers went to Buffalo last year in a snowstorm, and they were doing well offensively until Christian McCaffrey injured his knee.
And that was Purdy, right? Was that Purdy was back for
that was
game?
Purdy.
Yeah.
Purdy had an okay game, didn't have a lot of attempts. The defense could not stop Josh Allen in that scenario, and that was the difference. But Christian McCaffrey was on his way to a 100-yard game, and probably even more than that. The Bills couldn't stop the run then; they can't stop it now this season either. But my point is that the 49ers were able to run the ball, even though everybody in the stadium knew that they were going to run the ball because the weather was so bad. So I think that they're probably kind of looking at that game plan, which was a good offensive game plan. Defensively, it was terrible, but I do think that they will be able to run, especially now that you've got Brian Robinson there too. This is his forte. And we talked about this. The guard play nowadays is way better than it was just 4 or 5 weeks ago. Pooney's healthy. Ben Barch is starting to take over at the left guard spot. They're still alternating, although the Barch snaps are starting to get bigger with each week. So I think that that's what the game plan hinges on.
Can Brian Robinson get more than 9 carries? He's been at 9 a couple times, hasn't got to 10. This might be the one. Get him
Double digits.
11 snaps. And again, if he goes 4.7 yards a carry, which is what his average is, which is a very good average, that's like 55, 58 yards. That will be big yardage. That will be important acreage in this game. And can it be on 3rd and 2? Can it be on 1st and 10 where he gets 6? Those will be huge pieces of this game, just getting the 6-yard gain when you'd have to get it. And Brian Robinson might be the guy to get it. So I was initially not so sure, was leaning towards 49ers loss, but wasn't going to feel great about it with Shedeur Sanders on the other side. The more I think about the way Purdy, just the person he is, he might be terrible. Who knows? But I just think there will be a real focus on Purdy playing it precise and efficient and not throwing those balls a little bit behind guys, a little bit late. If he throws them, he's going to put them out in front of them and see what happens, and don't let the DBs make the play on it. I think they're going to win this game. We'll see. My losing streak, my winning streak could be over. We'll see. But I felt really good about the previous 7. I don't feel as good about this one. It'll still be an L on my mark if it turns out differently, but I don't feel as strongly as I did on the other 7. I felt really good on the other 7, which many of them were 49er losses that I predicted. So,
Well, Purdy and Tim Kawakami struggle with rain in another game.
That's it's all about wearing a glove, not wearing a glove.
Yeah, are you going to wear a glove?
We'll see how cold it gets. Purdy's not wearing a glove, right? He's just not a glove guy.
He doesn't like the glove, hates the glove. Yeah, so he wore a glove in the first drive of the Green Bay playoff game where it was raining in 23, and then quickly got rid of the glove and then played gloveless for the rest of the game. It stopped raining that day, and his stats were pretty good, over 300 yards. So, he can play well in the wet plus cold, plus wind. I don't know if any quarterback is going to look real good unless you're Josh Allen. You just have gigantic mitts and
just run it too.
Plays. Exactly.
Yep. Maybe Purdy will run a little bit. If he doesn't play well, man, there will be discussion. And I've been kind of waiting. Let's give it another week. There's certainly going to be debate no matter what. The 49er quarterback, that's the way life is. He got the big money, but now we're getting major feedback here also. So not just quarterback feedback. I am hearing a beeping. So let's wrap this up, Barrows. We'll catch everyone maybe Sunday night after the 49ers play in Cleveland. See you, everybody.